English 111. I want to take a second to talk you through our second essay, and I wanted to kind of explain what I was trying to do with your first essay. So your second essay is going to focus on you using pathos, ethos, and logos to prove your point. So in our first essay, we were doing a rhetorical analysis. I put that essay first because I wanted you to evaluate how another author was using ethos, pathos, and logos and other rhetorical devices, hopefully so that you would internalize what an author is supposed to do in their paper. Now I'm asking you to be the author. So we are no longer analyzing anything else that another author has done. Has done. From here on out, you're going to be the author who is making the claim. I hope that makes sense. I just want to make sure that that's clear. So in our second paper, you're going to go to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is right here. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was declared after the Holocaust, and the United Nations all came together and said, okay, after a travesty that is this large, we're going to come together and say that these things are things that every human deserves to have, regardless of age or nationality, ethnicity, religion. Basically, these are things that apply to all humans. So you need to spend some time reading through the articles in the Declaration of Human Rights, because that's going to be the main inspiration for your topic. So it says in your paper right here that you're going to argue how one tenet, that would be one article basically, of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights applies to an issue that you choose. So let's take a look at a few of those together. Let's say, for example, Article 4, no one should be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. Well, it seems obvious that that one may be a little antiquated, but actually there are still forms of human trafficking that are taking place in our nation. In fact, Charlotte and Atlanta, which are close to us, are some of the major places that human trafficking. Atlanta, I think, is one of our nation's largest centers of human trafficking. Don't hold me to it. I was told that once. It's a little scary to think that that's just a few hours away. And a few years ago, I read of a woman in Charlotte who was out in front of a nail salon in broad daylight at a strip mall in Charlotte, and she was attacked by two people. But instead of going quietly, she fought back. And the way that she injured a couple of them actually led to the police being able to bust a major human trafficking ring in Charlotte, North Carolina. Guys, like an hour and 15 minutes away from our school. There are people who are being kidnapped and sold basically into sex slavery or servitude. And so you might, like, for example, take the position that more needs to be done in your paper because slavery still exists in our nation. Other ways that slavery might exist in our nation would be with undocumented workers who are being paid less than a living wage. Like, for example, there was a few years ago some blueberry farms in Rutherford County that were paying undocumented workers $20 a day to pick blueberries and the season for blueberries only lasts about a month. So these people would be, in a way, held in servitude because you cannot live or support a family on $20 a day, and they would be working for like 12 hours or so. And so you could make the argument that these people were being taken advantage of and held in servitude. That this slavery and they're not necessarily slaves, but you could argue that the cooperation of the people who own the farms is, what's the word I'm looking for, contributing to these people's servitude, that they feel like they don't have a choice because they're undocumented. It's a difficult argument to think about because it's something that would be going on in our very own backyards. But that would be kind of what I'm trying to say is you're going to take a clear side on an issue of social change, not necessarily blaming the people who are migrant workers, but the people who are willing to pay them under the table, to say that kind of opportunity to pay them that slave wage labor would be against the Declaration of Human Rights. Does that make sense? And you would use pathos, ethos, and logos to support your claim. So the first thing that you need to do is to find your topic. You can write about any sort of social issue that you want to. You're just going to match it up to one of the articles that you see here. Like take, for example, Article 6. Everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Well, there are some people that would argue that our laws about abortion do not recognize a fetus as a person before a law. Once the baby is born, it is illegal to kill it. But you would argue that that abortion would be a violation of our United Nations rights, Declaration of Human Rights, because not every person is being recognized as a person before the law. Does that make sense? So you got to do some thinking about, okay, what do I know that's going on in our society, and how is it that this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is countries from all over the world saying, okay, this is the way that we need to operate as citizens of the globe, not just individual citizens of our country. So this is where pretty much you're going to establish your ethos, if that makes sense. So by saying that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights argues that this is a tenet, you're going to say that this is something that the majority of the world agrees on, especially in light of a major atrocity, where you would have a clearer vision of what you don't want to happen in the world again. So once you choose your topic, then you will be able to start thinking about your resources. So let's back up just a little bit. A good topic should allow you to find a variety of evidence to support your ideas. And just like you were looking in your rhetorical analysis at what kind of evidence that person used, you should also use a variety of evidence, including personal examples, stats, and expert opinion. So you want to have a variety of evidence so that you aren't leaning too heavily on just ethos, pathos, or logos. And the issue shouldn't be so large that you can't begin to address it in the short 2 to 3 pages that I've asked you to write. So for example, instead of arguing that world hunger needs to be eradicated, you would choose one way that world hunger should be impacted and argue that that's a worthy cause. And then you would find your article here that, like, for example, that everyone has a right to life, liberty, and the security of person, and argue that a lack of resources to food or a way to secure that food violates this human right. So pretty much what I'm trying to say, oh, sorry, that's all. We don't need that anymore. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is that there's a huge variety of ways that you can address this topic, but basically it should just be a social issue. So after you've chosen your topic, you do some preliminary research, and you start taking notes. If you don't like this chart, it is perfectly fine for you to erase the chart and take your notes however you want. But this is at least a way that you can organize your notes by your sources so that when you start to do your citations, you are able to do them later. Easily put your citations in your paper. Okay, sorry, it's been a long day. I feel a little fragmented. Okay, so step 3, which will come later on our agenda, is to use the Toolman analysis to determine how you can organize. You want to make sure you've got your evidence, your backing, your rebuttal, and your qualifier. So we're going to kind of color code your planning here so that we can make sure that we have everything you need in your outline. Your claim we will talk about later on, but your claim will be pretty much how the social issue of the day violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights tenet that you chose. So that's where your ethos is going to come from. So you're going to be arguing that something needs to change in society based on what you have found in your research. Then later on, we will make sure that you have a variety of ethos, pathos, and logos. And then later on, we will start drafting. So essentially, we're going to use your instructions over the course of the next several weeks. We will be doing step 1 by the latter half of the week, and then we will move on to step 2 and 3, which is to begin to find the sources for your paper later on. Let me know if you've got questions about your topic. I'll be glad to talk you through. I would read through the entirety of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and talk to other people who may be in the library with you to kind of get an idea of what you want to research. Make sure that your claim is something that's interesting to you. That way, it'll make your paper a much more enjoyable experience because it'll be something that you want to learn more about. I hope this helps with some ideas about what to research. Like I said, let me know if you've got questions.